Talk about COVID matters. The hospitality and travel industry was perhaps the most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which saw countries temporarily closing their borders, limiting travel. Tourism and Wildlife Chief Administrative Secretary Joseph Boinett says COVID-19 restrictions saw tourist arrivals in Kenya reduced by 80% in 2020. A year after Kenya confirmed the first case of COVID-19, Irene Muchuma reflects on the event that shaped the last 12 months with a focus on the tourism and travel industry.
On 13th of March 2020, Kenya confirmed the first case of coronavirus. This would be followed by health recommendations aimed at containing the spread of the deadly flu. This comprised social distancing in public spaces, wearing of masks, sanitizing, avoiding handshakes and hugs, as well as curfews. Perhaps it was the imposition of curfews barring traveling into and outside key tourist hotspots of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi by road, sea and air that hurt the tourism and travel industry.
When it started, it came like rain, and then ending, we were not seeing any light in the tunnel, because as we even speak right now, we thought it's ending, but now they start saying there's a third wave. Even when the second wave came, we didn't know. So when they mentioned third wave, it became a problem. So it is a really tricky journey, because number one, most of the hotels rely on foreigners. They are not coming, they are on lockdown.
The announcement saw hospitality facilities, travel and tour companies, as well as airlines and allied businesses temporarily closing, sending home thousands of workers and slashed salaries for those who were retained in the 5 months between March and August 2020. It is estimated 2.5 million Kenyans in the travel and tourism industry were affected by either reduced salaries or job losses.
What other thing that came to hit the staff was now they are at home and they don't have food. And they don't have salaries, because, you know, if there are no guests, there's no salary. So it was a bit tricky, but what we did is between April up to June, everybody stayed at home. So what we did was we tried to sustain our staffs by giving them foodstuffs and all, and giving them money to pay rent, and that's what we did at that point, because everybody was at home.
Thanks to easing of travel restrictions in the last 6 months of last year, some hotels that had closed reopened, which saw some of those who had been laid off being recalled back to work. The period between February and June 2020 was the hardest for the tourism and travel industry, as travel restrictions imposed by tourism source markets, as well as here in Kenya, drastically cut arrivals. Despite lifting of travel restrictions in July in most countries, tourist arrivals took a thorough beating. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, international arrivals witnessed an 81.3% reduction in 2020. Local tourism and travel industry players heavily relied on domestic tourism, which also suffered a 64% reduction to remain afloat. Thanks to the East African Community Market Protocols and Trade, regional arrivals registered a modest 38% reduction, which, coupled with the local traveller, offset the huge dip in arrivals from key source markets. To help fast-track the recovery process, the government announced stimulus programs that included 3 billion shillings loan to the tourism industry, 1 billion shillings for engaging 5,500 community scouts under the Kenya Wildlife Service, and another 1 billion shillings for supporting 160 community conservancies.
This ministry is committed to supporting both the tourism and the wildlife departments, including the private sector, in carrying forth not only the mandate of this ministry, but in making their contribution towards nation building.
With drastically reduced international arrivals, the hospitality industry turned the focus to the local traveller. Facilities have since July been offering discounted rates for bookings as they strived to stimulate travel and keep the industry afloat. Even today, social media and other media platforms are awash with special travel and leisure offers from hotels and airlines.
Those who are doing very well is 50%. Those one is like 100%. In fact, I would say COVID brought social distancing, which was said half of what we used to do. So even in revenues, we are doing half of what we used to do. But we thank God, because we must say, since we are still on, we must thank God. There are others who have closed down.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1.